Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple questions. First off, on 100% situational awareness, obviously that would involve not only the southern border, but also the northern border. And the Deputy Secretary was out and spent a couple days with us on the northern border. Grateful for the visit. He did a great job there. And has the department ever prepared a budget or prepared a plan that would give you 100% situational awareness?
Senator, I don't know the answer to that question. Let me look at that.
I think that when we're talking about it, I think all of us, every person in this country probably wishes for 100% situational awareness. And my concern on the border has been, as we have beefed up and amped up the security and the awareness at the ports of entry and within distance of the port today, you're pushing a lot of that traffic to rural America that is ill-equipped to handle, especially the first responders, because they literally are 40, 50 minutes away from a 911 call in many places in my state, and I've spent a lot of time on the southern border and have seen it there. And so I would like to see a budget and a strategy for 100% situational awareness on the border. And until we have that, I don't think, this is just pie in the sky and we're punting back and forth. Let's try and kind of find out what the numbers are, do the cost benefit on it, figure out if there's a way to resource it so that we can actually get it accomplished. My other concern has been for firefighters. Obviously with the situation of crude oil on the rail and trains presenting some new challenges, especially for rural fire departments, we have paid very close attention to this. The President's budget requested about $670 million for firefighter assistance grants. In North Dakota, we're retooling and preparing for the new challenges. Your reduction of $10 million in both programs for rural assistance may not sound like a lot of money in real dollars, but for those rural fire departments, it's a huge opportunity. And I'd like you to just tell me what the strategy is to have a country that has a vibrant network of first responders as we lose more and more volunteers and as the funding for those rural fire departments becomes even more and more difficult and critical. Why would you guys suggest less resources for first firefighters?
Well, obviously firefighters as first responders are key. Senator, I think you made a reference to rail oil spills earlier. I've actually read your bill, and we'll have some thoughts on that. We provide between state and UASI grants something like $2.2 billion a year for various different things, including firefighters. In some jurisdictions, we're helping to pay the overtime for firefighters. So, but
I'd like you to address the rural component of that. We have firefighters who tell us, volunteer chiefs who spend, 200, 300 hours filling out grant applications to get rejected because they haven't done it right, or to basically get a very small amount of money. And so we're obviously very concerned about this in rural America.
Well, I do know that we're in a position to help somebody with the application process. I also know that I've encouraged my staff, and I haven't seen this in your state, ma'am, but I do know that there are other jurisdictions where the application was not very well filled out. But I've said, folks, try to look past that and let's look at the real need here. And so I don't want to see.
Just to give you an example,
because of the
for those
jurisdictions,
who apply for assistance from the Forest Service, it's a one-page application. Your page can be, take as much as 200 hours for pretty skilled folks to fill out. They're hiring grant writers. And so just take a look at that. I think that to the extent that you can streamline that process, especially for rural firefighters. I want to also talk about back to the rural borders. We have an extraordinarily difficult time keeping employees, federal employees in North Dakota. Cost of living has increased. I think this has had a very dramatic effect on Custom and Border Protection and on Border Patrol, especially in remote outlooks. I'm wondering what additional steps your agency can take to recruit and retain and reward these folks for living in places where other people wouldn't maybe want to live. I think they're beautiful, but other people may not want to live, just so that we can maintain that situational awareness in remote outposts.
That's a good question. I'm sure that there are some sorts of incentives we provide to encourage our CBP personnel to serve in all parts of the country. I have to believe your state in particular is a great place to live.
Thank you, it is.
But let me look at that question, Senator.
I think anything that you can do that would be helpful to the number one, to address the concerns of rural America as it relates to Homeland Security. And I'm not just talking about borders, but obviously interior-wise, I would challenge you to take a look at what's happening with the volunteer fire departments. Volunteer fire departments are losing volunteers. It's harder and harder to recruit new members. We're aging in place. And these are can't give you the exact statistic, but I think about 80% of the land mass in this country is protected, probably over that, by volunteer firefighters. And so sometimes we think as bad things happen in major cities and as people focus on population centers, we leave behind some of the challenges of providing first responder readiness, situational awareness in rural America. And I would just challenge you, along with the deputy when he was out there, to give some special attention to our first responders in rural America. They're a huge part of our protection.